If you're willing to lose money on things and you're doing it intentionally and for a purpose, like that's how you beat your competition. Yep. Because it's whoever's willing to spend the most to get the customer, that's who wins.
Like if you have one $5,000 offer and nothing that you sell after that, or even a $10,000 offer, like you're making it very difficult for yourself, because you could sell something lower priced on the front end, do higher volumes, offset your costs, or even lose money on the front end like you just mentioned, and then with all the customers you've got, go sell them something for 20, 30, 40 grand on the back end.
One thing that I always found was that the advertising was never anywhere near as consistent if they didn't have organic content. And I'm talking like Meta is cheaper if you have a YouTube channel. All right, guys, what's up? We're doing an episode of Coffees for Closers. So I got this guy, James Hepburn, with me today. It's a little bit of a different angle. James is a really good marketer, understands content, marketing, all that kind of stuff. And then we met at we've been in the same circles for a while, but we met at the Ben Simpkins event, right? We met before that as well. Yeah.
And then I saw you at Hormozy's event.
Yeah. And we just sort of got along and chatted shit. And you know what you're doing. You're also working with Jack Henderson at the moment. And I know Jack's on our dialer. I just did a podcast with him then. But yeah, I wanted to kind of, just get your perspective, get you to break down, marketing, what you do. Right. Yes, and then just sort of get some insight, because a lot of our guys are business owners and salespeople. And I think like the more of an understanding you have of marketing, like I was a marketer first before I was a sales guy. Yes. I used to do all the media buying and all the creative stuff for the ads. And I had my own strategies of because I was doing it for the gym that I owned in Bondi. And it's like I used to do a very different strategy to everybody else. And every time I hired an agency, they could never match it.
Yep.
Yep. And so I know marketing decently. I know more about non-paid stuff, but you're deep in the world, and I'd love to know one, what are you seeing at the moment? What are you seeing from what are some of the commonalities of successful businesses that are using, ads?
100%.
They're doing are they just throwing ad spend at things, or is there, I think I was talking to Jack. It was if you just took the money that he makes from the ads directly, without any longer term attribution, it makes no sense. But the brand gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he makes sales, but it's not necessarily the last touch was not the ad,
Yeah,
and so
it's interesting with his stuff specifically, which we can speak on. But it's a great question. So just for context for people listening, so I've been a copywriter primarily, doing info, coaching, consulting, high ticket stuff for the last 10 years pretty much. These days I pretty well focus primarily on video creative and VSLs. That's pretty much all of it. I work with Knowledge Source, who do $100 million a year in revenue. Yeah. Henderson, who's doing, 15 million a year. We do all of his videos for anyone who's seen them. And then I've worked with people like Ben Handler, Jay Wright, all just VSL, video creative, high production stuff. So in the last 12 months, in the Australian market in real estate, I've spent about $3 million on ads, which is not big if you're in the US, but it's huge if you're out here. Our population's not that big.
So mate, it's hard to spend that money.
Hard to spend that much, yeah, especially just in real estate pretty well. So I guess we could talk about all that sort of stuff. I think there's a lot. It's funny you say that the way you marketed when you had a gym, no one could replicate, because that's sort of the secret in itself. I'm not a big Grant Cardone guy, but I've seen him talk about how, people are afraid to say controversial shit. Oh, yeah, and you see it all the time with people. Oh, what if people see this and they think negative shit about me? And it's dude, your problem is no one fucking knows who you are, not that people think negatively of you. Yeah, and that's one thing Jack does really well, is he'll just say fucking anything. He's the only person I reckon I've ever worked with where I'm dude, peel that back a bit. That's a bit outrageous. Because normally I'm trying to tell people to do real crazy shit.
You're not a millionaire, you're gay, right?
Yeah, we ran an ad that was hi, I'm Jack and I'm trans, transferring hundreds of thousands of dollars into my clients' pockets with my property strategy, and he thought that was fucking hilarious. And so stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I think, if you try and speak to everyone, you speak to no one passionately. And I think a lot of people, they try and play it safe and they don't end up being themselves. And then you sort of end up having to be somebody else all of the time, which I feel would be very exhausting.
Absolutely.
And so you can't keep that up. And I think especially with socials, and there is something with social media where quantity is a quality of its own. And if you're putting a lot out there, and it's so easy for people to see if it's not you, you know, and so like they might follow you for information, but they're not gonna like sort of passionately be on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Like if you look at say like you know, Jeremy's content, right? There's no real like him in it. You get a lot of great information.
Yeah.
But you don't get him.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just pure information. There's no sort of, you know, and it's the sort of same every time. And it's great content, but it's not personal brand content. It's far more like corporate brand content.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, which then stops people from like, I guess, deeply connecting, where you get someone like a Pace Morby, for example. I don't know if you follow Pace, but he's getting good content, but my God, it's so like wrapped in him. Yeah. And so he has a cult like following.
Yeah, 100%.
You know? And it's wild. And it's just because like people think that they know him.
And Jack's similar like that. Like Jack said to me when I saw him a couple of weeks ago, he was like, oh, one of my favorite things at the moment, one thing I've noticed in my content is like people argue with each other in the comments. Like I don't even say anything. People that love me are coming in there like calling people cunts and like just attacking people. And he's like, I agree with it, but I don't even really get involved in it because I'm too fucking busy. But I think it's funny, but it's to that point, right? Because he has such strong opinions on everything. I think that's like all your ads. And I mean, this isn't really revolutionary, but I think it's particularly important now with where social media is at and all these algorithms. Like if you don't go and say something, it's sort of like why Trump won the elections. Like, because he says a lot of crazy shit, but people just feel like no one's like, I don't know who that is. I feel lukewarm about Trump. I don't have an opinion. It's love, hate. There's no middle ground. Yeah,
exactly. And that was one of the big things that people said about Kamala was that like, they don't know who she is.
Yeah. And she didn't end up going on Rogan.
You can't tribalize with that, you know?
I think that was the reason she didn't go on Rogan too, because they were like worried that they didn't know if she could maintain the character for 3
she's a dum-dum.
That's what people, I mean, who knows?
You know, she in particular is a bit of a dum-dum. So like, so I don't give a fuck, argue in the comments, go for it. So like, you know, I think like marketing is such an interesting endeavor. And I think that a lot of the time people say that sales is the most important. I think that sales should bend to marketing. I've sort of always said that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because I think that, you know, if I go old school copywriting, which I think is a great, you know, it's the 5 levels of awareness, right? Unaware, problem aware, solution aware, brand aware, product aware.
Yeah.
And I think like the marketing's job is to get them as far down the line as can be done affordably. You know, so if we can get them brand aware, I mean, product aware, fantastic. Like, hey, did you know that like, you know, so they're unaware, then it's like problem aware. Hey, did you know that you can make more money through investing in real estate? Okay, cool. It's like, hey, you can do it. You know what I mean? Like there are ways to do it that, you know, there is a solution out there. And it's like, you know, Henderson advocacy is a way that you can do that without the knowledge. And then this program X, is the program from Henderson advocacy that can get you to having your own property, which solves your cash flow, which solves your wealth creation problem, you know? And so, but, you know, affordably is the key.
Of course.
And so like if at that moment in time, marketing can only get people to solution aware, then the sales process has to be altered and picked up from there. You can't just go like, I want book calls. Yeah. Right. And just sit there and kick and scream and like fucking demand shit as a sales team, because you'll just bankrupt the company.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've always considered them like one spectrum. And like, I'm sure you would have worked with like businesses like this where they typically like, sometimes they're combative. Marketing will be like, oh, sales can't close our leads. Sales will be like, marketing, these leads are shit. But in reality, it's just one spectrum. You can have like a sales heavy sales process, which is like, you know, just generate a phone number off a lead magnet opt-in, 0 content consumed, and have like a 2-step call process where they close heaps of people. You can have that, or you can have like, we're only getting on the phone with people that have spent like $1,000 with us. But like you said, you know, scale that can be difficult, cost, et cetera, et cetera. But then like when they do get on the phone, sales job will be easier. So it's like trying to strike that balance based on the scale of where you're at. Yeah.
And it's like, it will change. And the answer is probably have both. You know, you probably want to have, because like one will become incredibly profitable. And so you're going to skew the spend towards that. What, you know, and that's going to chop and change depending on a lot of different factors, and appetite and how long you run it for, and audience saturation. You know, one of the things that I was always really tried to maintain, like when we were doing big ad spend at 7th level, you know, like $1 million US a month, right? Basically the metric was, we can never let the amount of eyeballs that see us asking for them to give us money right, to be more than the amount of people that we give value to for free.
Yeah.
So we had to take like all the organic content and say, okay, we get X amount of views, whatever it was, per month, and that we get that many eyeballs. If we're going to pay for 5 million eyeballs to see the ads, right, then what we need to do is whatever that delta is, we have to subvert ad spend towards top of funnel audience growth to make sure that those two circles never converge. So you've got your reach, you got your conversion and like your reach advertising, right? And so I was always really, really adamant that like, no. If those converge, then your brand, your advertising gets bigger than your brand. And then everything starts to get incredibly expensive because now everything you do is cold audience.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. When everything is cold audience, it is a difficult thing to maintain over long term because you have to churn through audiences so fast, and it just gets more expensive. And so I would rather put money. I'm a huge fan of just like video view advertising, lead magnets, downloadables, anything that you can give value for free. And
then create opportunities for your salespeople.
Exactly. And then retarget those people with bookable, you know? And so have a lot of that stuff going. But I think the problem is like that takes a level of delayed gratification. And a month and the ads are performing well, there's a discipline to not turning them up.
Yeah.
Right?
One thing I'm curious about, Matt, like at that level of spend where you're like doing an info product, and I'm imagining like there's a degree of turnover of sales reps, probably not huge, but there'd be a degree of it. And then you've got that much spend. And I've seen you do some posts about like generating insane numbers of leads in that business. What was the fluctuation like in terms of cash collected, revenue? Like that had to have been a roller coaster all on its own, or was things relatively stable?
It was pretty stable. Like when I was there, I had projections, and then like that was where my sort of, I guess, somewhat rough management style came into play. Because if the team, I would always say it is not impressive to spend more money to make more sales. That does not impress me. I do not find that difficult. If you have a budget and you are not allowed to go over it, and you have to hit the revenue number with that budget. And then everything was budgeted and everything was forecasted. Yeah. And so if we were going to have a giant, if everything was performing beautifully, I would never allow them to turn it up. It's like, no, we're trying to hit that number. Just because we can hit that number, all that's going to do is make the next month go like this. So like, I'd rather just create sustained growth rather than like, like that. And then just hit nice, consistent numbers, knowing that we've always got a bit more in the tank.
Yeah.
But you don't need to max everything out all the time. That's just that's what creates like the front end chaos cycle. Yeah. Where you're always like trying to make next month the best month. And then I would factor in months that I knew would be bad. Like July is going to be bad in the US. There's nothing you can do.
Remember you saying that. Yeah.
You didn't try and do anything about it, because if you do, you know, you're just wasting your fucking time. And you can figure out how to have a giant July, but why?
Yeah.
What's the point? You know? And so, like, because people are away for 10 days. You know, if this is inevitable, then like I'm 10 days behind.
Well, that was like out here in April. There was the 2 Easter holidays, the Anzac Day holiday leading into the election.
Yeah.
With Henderson, like shit sort of not fell off a cliff, but he was like, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, look, I'm not one for blaming external events, but
this is normal.
As soon as the election ended, things took off.
Yeah, and this is normal. And it's like, it's the discipline of like going, oh, that makes sense. And then just keep going.
For sure.
You know, and you can choose to pull back spend, or you can choose to just not be profitable for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you choose to just not be profitable for 2 weeks, then what you can do is you can gain market share in those times.
Yeah.
So because if you're willing to lose money on things and you're doing it intentionally and for a purpose, like that's how you beat your competition. Yeah. Because it's whoever's willing to spend the most to get the customer, that's who wins.
Yeah.
You know, and so like you look at like Bernard Arnault.
Yeah.
Right. You know, the fucking wolf in Kashmir.
Yep.
The only non-tech fucking super billionaire, whatever he is. And, you know, he bought Michael Kors.
Yep.
Right? And then what he did is he like halved the price of everything at Michael Kors, because obviously he makes so much money in the thousands of brands that he has. He has a full monopoly of everything luxury.
Yeah.
And so, but what he didn't have was like good mid-tier luxury, like entry-level luxury. So Michael Kors is creating the customer for Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Right? It's your first taste. So what he did is he halved the price. It bankrupted 80% of mid-tier luxury.
Yeah,
right? Like Orton got fucked. Right? They reduced Mimco. Do you remember Mimco? Yeah, you see it anymore?
I can't say I've ever taken too much notice, but yeah.
They ran Michael Kors at a huge loss for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? To bankrupt their competitors.
Yeah.
And it worked. Because like he's like, well, I don't need to make money in Michael Kors. If I lose a fucking $1 billion a year, I don't give a fuck. You know, he's like, you know, Chanel's making $1 billion a week. He's like, I don't care. You know, and so he's like, we'll just take that margin and charge an extra $1,000 for a fucking Chanel bag. Like, what do we give a fuck?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's all one big company anyway. And so it's really interesting. And so, you know, he did that on purpose, and he was willing to lose money, and he was willing to pay more to acquire a customer. And so he did it, and where you can bankrupt your customers. Like, you know, I always said, like, if I was gonna do gyms again, like I could bankrupt every gym in Bonai. Because if I was gonna do it again, knowing what I know now, I would open up a great gym, and I would have a $2 million stop loss. So I would do it, and then I would lose $2 million in the first year. I would offer all inclusive for $10 a week.
Yeah.
Right? Everything. $10 a week. Opening special, 12 months, lock it in, $10 a week. Right? And then I would bankrupt everybody. And I would even say, like, if you can cancel your membership, you get it for $5 a week. Right? And then from there, as soon as everyone's closed, I would go up to the $100 a week. I would then lose 80% of my business and maintain a very profitable, very good gym.
It's a hell of a way to think about it.
Right. Just lose money. I lose money they can't afford to lose.
And then by then they'd all be ingrained in the community of the gym too.
Yeah. And so like that's how you do it.
Yeah,
and you know, you bring people in, and then you go, yeah, mate, your fucking first year's up. It's now $100 a week. Stay or leave. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Go to the competition that went bankrupt 6 months ago?
And no one would want to start a gym in the area.
No, because I dominated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's wearing the t-shirts because they get a free fucking hoodie and a free t-shirt. And, you know what I mean? I partner up with Lululemon and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude, with money, you can destroy them. But because the problem is everyone who's starting a gym is like, they're bootstrapping it. You know, I'm not trying to compete with the virgins. I'm trying to compete with like, I'm just going to destroy all of the small group training gyms.
Yeah.
And so, and with that, like, you know, it was a strategy that would work. And, you know, and so like when it comes to advertising, you know, if you can afford to do it, you know, and then you just have a sales process that bends around to it and that fluctuates and changes based on what's happening. And, you know, because a sales team should just be like, it's not their close rate that matters. It's like the return of ad spend in which they give you.
Yeah.
Like it's
totally.
Why.
And that's the advantage like these information brands have, you know, like if they can sell courses, coaching, whatever, as a way to just liquidate on the front end, like the back end can just be, you know, infinite.
Yeah.
I've said this to Jack a million times, and that's a whole other thing. He doesn't want to sell education because he's consumed too much hormosy. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But I'm like, dude, if we were selling something here, we could liquidate all of our ad spend. And these people would probably end up buying shit from you anyway on the back end, the same shit they're buying on the front end. But now all these like, you know, costs would be offset, but, you know, he doesn't want to do it that way, which is obviously his choice. But
yeah, well, he definitely knows what he's doing. So when it comes to running something like a webinar, what are you seeing at the moment, like with webinars? Like, what's your like underlying thesis? If you're like, this is what a webinar needs to have.
Like in the specific webinar, or
like, well,
I'll go a bit broader. So my overall philosophy is this, right? Like if I was launching anything in info coaching consulting, the biggest variable, I mean, outside all the obvious shit, which we probably don't need to talk about, the offer, you know, the 101s of marketing. Like if you don't have a good offer in a market where you've got some sort of advantage, like we just talked about, like that goes without saying. You obviously need that in 2025.
Yeah.
Once you've got that down pat though, it's all just front end video creative, trying to get the cost per lead down and the dollars you generate per lead up. You know what I mean? So it's having a full, like businesses that don't have back ends, like they probably don't exist now. They definitely won't exist in the future because shit's just, advertising is way too expensive. Like if you have one $5,000 offer and nothing that you sell after that, or even a $10,000 offer, like you're making it very difficult for yourself because you could sell something lower priced on the front end, do higher volumes, offset your costs, or even lose money on the front end, like you just mentioned. And then with all the customers you've got, go sell them something for 20, 30, 40 grand on the back end. So the philosophy is have a front end and a back end, and then just do a shitload of video creative. Like creative burns out real quickly, especially in small markets like Australia. So with Jack, we'll shoot every, 3 to 4 weeks. We'll get heaps more new creative. Now, he's not an example of what I talked about because he doesn't really have a front end. I mean, he has got some staggered offers, but largely it's his buyer's agent fee that he sells. But obviously they do a good job and they get repeat business, so there's a bit of a back. But we will have, so yeah, like a business like that. And then it will literally be VSL or webinar. If it's VSL, it'll be like 15 minutes long. I'm doing a lot of like high production stuff. So I'll shoot like one camera front on, one camera on an angle. I'll do a take like that of a VSL. Then I'll go shoot line by line, walking around the streets, picking up a payphone, like just heaps of shit, and then cut those 3 angles together. And I can send you some examples of that because people are so like fucked in the head from TikTok and Instagram and scrolling and shit. If you don't have heaps of movement and shit going on, the same way like Sabri Subi does his VSLs and ads, like you're just going to people are just going to scroll off it. It's boring. It's got to be exciting. The message has to be relevant as well.
Yep.
So,
and when you're looking at ad creative,
yep.
Like, are you, because you're writing the ad too, right?
Writing the ad scripts, I go to the shoots, I shoot the videos, and we'll do the same thing in ads. We'll do like, say the hook here, go in this room, say some shit here. And then like, the good thing about that is when you cut your ads into different segments, like for example, when I was with Jack last week and there's a barber across the road, he gets his hair cut. I ring this motherfucker and I'm like, Jack, I'm coming out to shoot on Thursday. And in the middle of the shoot, he'll be like, oh, I got to go get a haircut. I'm like, are you fucking serious, dude? I fly here from Brisbane, you get the fucking haircut. I said, can we go there and shoot an ad at the barber? He's like, yeah, righto. So we shot this ad where the dude's cutting his hair. It's coming out this week. And the hook is like, getting property advice from someone who doesn't own any property is like getting a haircut from a barber that has no hair. And then the camera pans and the fucking barber's bald. And he just happened to be bald, this cunt that cuts his hair.
Yeah.
So we shot that there. And then there's like a bit more in the salon. And then there's a part where he's like walking up the stairs into his office. And cause one ad has all these different scenes, let's say the barber hook doesn't resonate. Say it just goes shit. We'll just shave the first 8 seconds off the ad and he'll be like walking up the stairs saying, here's a problem with most property gurus. So then we'll test the ad like 8 seconds in from that point. If that point doesn't resonate, we'll cut into the next part where he starts going through client examples. So even if it all works, we'll have like 3 or 4 variations of one bit of creative and we'll get extra juice out of it. So that's like a thing we do as well.
And so like, and can you tell when that's going to pop off, or if it's just like there's just no way to know, it just looks good?
Pretty much, we can tell pretty quickly, like the legs of something. Like, so say for Jack, like in the property market, it's opt into a VSL that's about 30, 40 minutes from memory, because we've changed it a few times. I think it's a 40-minute one at the moment, and then book a call. And so we'll pay, if we go to a broad market, like lately a lot of his ads have been targeting business owners, and he's been really on this kick, let's only go after business owners. When we do that, our CPLs are way higher. But before that, say for from about June last year until say January, we were targeting just anyone interested in property investment, like a broader audience. We would pay 30 to around $40 CPL at scale for like good ads for like an extended period of time. So if we launched something and it was outside of that, we might run it for a little bit, but typically that would be like something we know is not going to sustain, and then if we ran something that was around the 30 mark, we'll know that we can pump that for a while. But then what was interesting about him, I think between June last year, 2024, when we started working together, till roughly the end of Jan, about 7 months, we generated from memory, about 18,000 leads. Spent, I think it was about 650 grand on ads. I think those numbers are right. From that talk I did at Ben's, that's what they are. But then we did this one ad where the hook was sell your fucking house with the F word beeped out, right? This is really interesting to me because normally, like, when people talk about like testing new ads or testing headlines, you might get a bump of like 10, 15%, reduced to costs. Like if you're doing shit right, like, someone like me who's done it a lot of times ago, all right, let's test these hooks. Maybe we get a cut in CPL of like 20% once we get to like your normal price, right? We did this ad that was like, sell your fucking house. That was the start of the ad. And then Jack was talking about like, here's why you should sell your fucking house if you want to be rich, because owning the house you live in, there's no tax deductions, blah, blah. Sort of talking about rent vesting. Man, that ad took the CPL to $12 from 40, just that one change. And we did like 2,000 leads a week, which was because the CPL was so much lower. Like we were doing so many fucking leads. And so like seeing a change like that to a campaign that you've already pumped, like say 15,000 leads from, was super interesting, like
Yeah.
And it speaks to how important the message is. And, you know, the comments were obviously like, fuck you, your dog, and why would I sell my house? I got a family and all this emotional stuff. But
No, you don't have to.
It's just interesting to see that change.
No one's going to make you, buddy. It's just a fucking advert.
Yeah.
You idiot.
We ended up pausing that because then we went and did a VSL that was based on that angle because the original VSL was more investment. So we're actually about to relaunch that now. It'll be interesting to see how that goes because the theory is the quality won't be as good because it's more of a like consumer type of, like people that buy their house to live in are probably different to his normal. Anyway, we'll see how that goes.
And how much do you find that, like, do you, I know you don't have much to do with his organic, right? But in terms of like advertising and brand with larger organic presences, right? Because when we were spending lots, and I've been involved in lots of businesses doing lots of spend, right? Like, because I had that sales agency. And one thing that I always found was that the advertising was never anywhere near as consistent if they didn't have organic content, right? Like, and I'm talking like Meta is cheaper if you have a YouTube channel. So we would notice a direct correlation.
Yeah, right, okay.
Jeremy went on holiday and we didn't have preloaded YouTube videos, like loaded up, ready to go. Our meta cost would go up. And it wasn't because we were retargeting. It was just like our inferences were just like, well, it's just an ecosystem where people are going to end up in different places. Like they see an ad of Jeremy, and they go, oh, what's that Jeremy guy? And they might search him on YouTube because like YouTube is like the #1 search platform.
Yeah.
So then they search him. Now YouTube is like the greatest retargeting mechanism ever. Yep. It is fire. Like when you book in a meeting for Dialer, you get redirected to a YouTube video of me. And it's me.
Right.
Hey, you booked in for Dialer. Let me explain what it is. That's like a 20-minute YouTube video explaining Dialer. That gets a really high watch time. Like it's like, you know, 80% watch time because they've just booked a call.
Yeah.
Now it's unlisted.
Oh, wait, so that's on your YouTube channel or is that like a YouTube video embedded on a web page?
It's just on a YouTube channel because like, what do I give a fuck? Just send them off. Right? Because then they're going to like go, oh, what else is he talking about?
Yeah, that's smart.
But then what happens is they end up during that couple days, because they watched an 18-minute video of me, right? YouTube goes, oh, let's fucking send him more of his videos.
Yeah.
And so they just start sending videos and they just, by the time they hop on a call, even if they didn't know me before, they go, oh man, I've watched like 20 of your videos in the last few days.
Yeah.
Sweet, man. Did you get some value? They're like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, you know what you're talking about. I was like, thanks, man. How can I help? And like, dude, the sales are fucking...
So it's an interesting thing, right? So say with Jack, because he's like an absolute beast at organic content. Like if anyone who doesn't follow him, like he posts like 6 times a day and he's using... He's just started doing YouTube.
And YouTube is like the most powerful organic. It's like, you can't, it's hard to gain an audience.
Yeah.
But the audience that you do have is powerful. They are buyers, right? So it's like
because they're watching like fucking documentaries on you, basically, you know. Yeah. And like, how many times have you watched a video? Like people like us that are ADD, like I watched a 10-minute video, probably not even that long. I'm like, yep, done, sold. But if someone goes and watches like 10 hours of your content, like, I fucking know where you live and all that sort of shit. Like,
and like, so it's really hard to grow on social, like on Instagram, right? Growth is hard because I don't spend money on the platform. But also, like, I'm not as consistent as it should be. Like, I'm sure I could if I really fucking put tons of effort in. But, you know, it's difficult to grow on Instagram. You know, you're shouting against a hurricane.
And you've got to say crazy shit. If you don't go and say real crazy shit, like, it's a fucking slog.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Ads amplify brand like crazy.
Yeah.
What I've seen. Like, when we started doing, the more advertising we did, the more YouTube views Jeremy would get.
Yeah, that's...
Right? And like, this is on Meta, on everything. And like, the more YouTube advertising we did, the fucking bigger his Instagram would get. Like, it's just because it's people, right? And people are not on one platform. There are multiple platforms. And so, you know, if you're like, it's just a big web, right?
Well, what's interesting, right, is like, take Jack, for example. So he has, I think, about 100,000 Instagram followers, super active, tons of engagement. So for all the ads we do for him, right? So if I compare his brand to I Love Real Estate, which is the Australian real estate part of Knowledge Source, where I do Dimfner Boholt write all her ads. Now they're different markets and they appeal to different segments and all that. And Jack has,
fuck, man.
Jack has a bit more aesthetic, or like a bit more vibey, like he's a bit more current, I guess, with his ads. Maybe that's maybe not the right way of saying it. Anyway, the point's this: Dimfner doesn't do anything.
He's 26. You know, he's young. He's fucking getting after it, whatever he is.
Yeah, and like he's got McLarens, and there's a bit of and the quality's high, and there's a thing he's doing. But So Dimfner doesn't do any content for I Love Real Estate. All we do is run paid ads on that brand, right? So this is like a direct comparison, same industry, different segments of that niche. Like they do education and Jack does the buyer's agent thing, but both in real estate, both in Australia. She doesn't do any content. John's whole thing is like just cranking paid ads into his webinars, and he's a beast at that. With Jack, so Jack, in terms of like when you're looking at the ads in the ad account, he'll get like above average engagement rate rankings and like the ad account likes his shit. Like for whatever reason, it's engaging. People watch it more so than other brands, right? But part of that, and Vaughn, Vaughn Royer, he runs all of his ads. Vaughn's a weapon. Vaughn will say like, it'll reduce the CPM because of all the content he creates, right? But what's interesting about it is Jack obviously has like all this content on Instagram. And last year, or maybe earlier this year, we had this discussion about, well, how much of the revenue we generate comes from, so he'll have like, we have in the VSL funnel we run for Jack, there's like one calendar that calls will get booked in, and then he has a link to a separate calendar in his Instagram bio. And so we'll look at the numbers each week and be like, while we're running ads and we're spending, I think at the moment he's spending about 200 grand a month, I'd say back when he was spending 100 or 150, we would be like, oh, like his team would always report the organic calls separately and be like, oh, like 100 calls got booked off the VSL and 100 got booked off this Calendly link through Jack's Instagram bio. And Vaughn would always argue, mate, 30 to 50% of those organic ones are paid traffics. Like,
yeah.
We can't.
This today, and I go, why don't you have fucking ClickMagic or Hyros, mate?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a Vaughn question.
I was like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, you can track that down to the second, first touch, everything. It tracks every single thing that person.
So I'm not involved in that. I don't know why we're doing that. But here's what happened, right? I think it was February, the ad account was down for a while. It wasn't banned. There was like Jack switched his invoicing method. Something happened. There was some payment fuck up. Anyway, there was no ads for like 2 weeks, right? And the sales guy rings me and he's like, dude, we're getting fuck all appointments booked across any of these platforms. I'm like, well, you're not going to get any until the ads are back up. And then I had this conversation with Jack where we talked about it. And like, long story short, when the paid ads were running, like 90% of, not to say that obviously the content does a massive leg up, reduces the CPM of the paid ads. Obviously people consume fuckloads of his content and probably book really high quality sales calls. But when the ad spend went away from the paid ads that we were running, it just like fucked all the organic calls up as well. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see from Hyros, but bottom line, like the organic's super important, but without the paid ad spend, it's sort of shit went downhill pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it was like, one of the mistakes that I've seen people make is they go, I was working with this guy once. He's like, oh man, like all the best leads and the highest close rate are from the website leads. So let's just ramp advertising to the website. And I was like, no, that's retarded. I was like, we're not doing it. And he was like, nah, but like we did look at all the best leads. I go, no, mate, just your best leads are ending up at the website. I go, no one's fucking searching you, dude. You are like 1 out of a trillion websites. You don't have any SEO. These are just the people that have watched everything, gone through the ads, done the research, and opted in via the website because that is the way to do it if you are very, very interested.
Yep.
Right? And so if you just ramp advertising direct to your website, you can't replicate that journey.
Yep.
I was just like, so don't do it because it's stupid. Everything is working together. And if you don't have, like before we had like, now I don't think Hyros is like the best way to do it, just because, and I think, it's very expensive. There are some holes in the attribution cycles. ClickMagic's really good. It's like just as good, but way cheaper, like it's way, way cheaper. Pompa, like Dr. Pompa, giant off in the US. So I know them pretty well.
Do you know Dirk Frankeno? He used to be their VP of sales.
I don't. I know the CEO.
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel. Yeah. I was talking to him the other day. They're doing like $3 million a month US in ads, right? Doing about $150 million a year. They had to build their own attribution software. It's called Dr. Attribution. It's not for sale, right? They built it themselves because Hyros just wasn't specific enough for the amount of ads money they were spending on advertising.
That's fucking sick.
They now know everything, and like they've been able to reduce their CPLs by like 40-50%.
Yeah,
like hyper specific attribution. But at 7th level, we had it, and we like it was a 4-month buying cycle. And the first touch and last touch, so you need something like that in place because you might have ads that are incredibly good at initializing the buying cycle, but not finishing it. You know, and you don't want to stop running those ads.
Yeah.
So it's like you just move them around and stuff like that. But like there are ads that look like they don't work and then they do.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was talking to Jack about this last week, and I was saying to him, like, because he was saying, because when they report the numbers, like what we'll see for, you know, this number of calls is booked from the VSL, this number from organic, and I'll be like, or they wouldn't report the organic, and I'd be like, guys, give us all these numbers just so we can see, like, I don't care how you guys attribute them on your end, doesn't affect me, but like, just so we know what ads were running and what calls got booked. And we got into this discussion where Jack was sort of saying, like, well, the calls that get booked through the organic channel, he's like, that would happen, like, you know, that's just a product of ad spend itself. And I was like, nah, like the creative would impact it. If we spend $100,000 next week on pictures of my dick in people's newsfeed, you're not going to book the same amount of calls organically.
Man, I can tell you that his close. So I've worked with people who, this guy has quite a big Instagram, and it's all booked through Instagram, right? Through like shout outs and stuff like that. So it's organic, but it's not. It's the same as paid. And he went to a wedding, and it was like an Indian wedding. So he was wearing like an Indian garb because he was in like the groom's party. And he got nothing but Indian leads for a month. Like, dude, those popped off so hard in India. They changed the entire fucking algorithm of the channel.
Wow. What business was that?
It's like learn how to trade offer.
Oh, right.
I'll send you the Instagram. You can see it.
Like because he wore that, like the organic, like delivered his content to different people?
Yeah, because tons of Indians started liking it because he was wearing traditional Indian garb. Oh. Which then Instagram goes, oh, you like this? I give you nothing but Indians. And for a month, it was nothing but plus, 9-1 area codes and all the leads. And they can't afford the product. Like the exchange rate doesn't make sense, right? And so it fucking tanked sales because he wore, it's an organic based marketing business. And he wore something of a culture, and then it popped off in that culture and then skewed all of the new followers and all the people doing DMs and all the CTAs into people in those countries. And they couldn't afford it. So it flooded the calendars with unqualified leads. It's fucking fascinating.
Dude, that makes total sense, though, because that's how those algorithms work. If
you never predict it.
When you say it, you'd never think it would happen. When you say it, it's like, I guess it took him a while to figure that out, too.
Yeah, it took a while. It was like, because you can then go in and like see the demographic shift. Like if I have a look in my socials, I'm like all US, UK, Canada, Australia.
Yeah.
I have like very, very little India, Turkey. Like if you look at any of my socials, like it's less than 2 or 3%, right? I'm like 90% Western countries. And it's almost all male. And it's all between like fucking like 22 and 50, right? Like that's the demographics. I have like a hyper specific socials, which like, and there's no fluff in there, which means like my like brand reach is like the same as somebody with 10x who did a bunch of like viral posts.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why like, we at Dialer, like we don't do any paid advertising. It's all off like, it's just all website inquiries, which are all coming. And like, there's a direct correlation between when I post on YouTube, right? So if I like get lazy and don't post for 2 weeks on YouTube, like the leads just stop.
Man, that's so interesting.
And then I was going to think,
it's like the algo feeds them more of your shit. Like it's something new and then maybe they watch it, but like it feeds other shit to them as well.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just being there. And so, and then I do a post on Facebook because like I get lazy. I just won't post for 3 weeks. Right. Yeah. I just don't think about it. And then I'll do a post and, I know how to play the organic sort of game. And then, you
got big numbers, which is great for that organic stuff. Like if you post anything about, like, oh, hey, this company I'm working with did like fucking 20,000 pickups or some shit, whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's such big numbers that everyone's like, oh, listen to anything you say.
Yeah, like I did one like totally organic, just Facebook post yesterday, and it got fucking 450 likes, and I posted it last night.
Yeah,
like that's an organic Facebook post, right? Yeah. Now, and like you can do primers and stuff like that. Like I know how to play that game, right? But it's really interesting that like YouTube, all I've got is a link to dialer.io. That's it. And I don't even really do dialer specific videos. Like I don't do any CTAs. I don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but we get if I post every week, we get 4 to 5 leads every day. They're all very qualified. We make a sale a day in B2B. Average like the annual value of each client is going to be probably 25 to 30,000.
Yep.
Right, average, and we make a sale every day. And we've done over $1 million in revenue in the first 5 months of launch with 0 advertising, and we're profitable. And that's a SaaS. That's pure SaaS. There's no service in that. That's pure software, which is wild. And just goes to show, like, content and branding. And then when we add in advertising, like, all we're going to do is advertise to people who just fucking watch stuff and don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to do small level advertising that's going to be like top of funnel awareness and fucking list building and like.
Becca did good ads for high roast. Like, you could almost model that where, it's like, if you install this code and don't cut your ad costs, I'll guarantee, like, you'd be able to do just real direct shit and then just massive numbers, ads about,
Yeah.
This client, they made $20,000 and this was the upshot of their revenue.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about software is, like, Becker knows how to market and sell, and 99% of software companies have no fucking clue what they're doing in that space. They borrow money. They're all like developers and engineers, and they have not even considered the acquisition thesis.
Yeah.
And so when, like, we will outgrow every dialer, like, we'll smash them all. And it's just because, like, I know how to market. That's it. Like, we have a better product. We have a better product, hands down. Like, hands down. Like, fucking Henderson's contact rate to lead this month is 87%.
Fuck.
Right? They've talked to 87% of every lead that you've generated.
Yeah, right.
Which is fucking wild. They would have been in the teens.
Yeah.
Before. And their whole team is on there. And so, like, that makes advertising way more effective when you can actually speak to them, because most people are only talking to 10, 15% of leads.
Yeah.
That's not booking, that's just speaking to.
Yeah.
And they book half of them, and then they sell a third of them. So it's like a 2% lead to sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can triple the amount of people you speak to, you'll triple your sales.
Yeah, it's sort of like tripling your advertising budget. Like, it's not, but it's like the effectiveness of it.
Well, it's tripling your CTR.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same thing. If I can get 3 more people to get on, 3 times the amount of people for the same price to get on that landing page, do you make more money?
Yeah. 100%.
And that's in my sales pitch, because we're more expensive. And I go, if I said I could triple your CTR and your ads, would you pay me $10,000 a month? And they go, yeah. And I go, sweet. Well, I'm asking for $250 a seat, dude. I'm going to triple your pickup rate, which means you're going to speak to triple the amount of leads. And then I have a calculator, and it goes through. I was like, this is what you do on our system as an average client. It's not guaranteed, but, like, this is what the average does. And I have the data to back that up. And, like, there you go, mate. And I've seen people literally triple their business, literally in like a month, because they go from a 2% or 3% pickup rate to a 15. They're speaking to 8x the people. And it's like, fuck. And then they just overrun.
Yeah, then they got their new problem.
Yeah, which is great. And it's cool to see, and it's working really well. And we rarely lose clients. The only time we lose clients is if they're like change model, downsize, whatever. Like, and the occasional, like, they just can't do the integrations. Because we're like a pretty custom software. Like, if you have a retard team, we're not the place.
Yeah, you got to have some efficiency. What sort of offers are you seeing working well at the moment, or people that you're speaking to, or?
Like, health offers are going really, really well. I'm like online fitness. I'm seeing, like, it's really funny. Like, everyone who can sell is doing well. Yeah. And it's like, and by that, I've got dudes that are running like an online fitness offer. It's, a $4,500 offer, and they're running it, they have a small team, and they're doing a 45% close rate.
Yeah, right.
And 60% cash collection, and they're running $50,000 a week profit. Yeah, and it's the dude fucking doing his thing.
Good. Not back end, just one $4,500 offer.
Yeah, and then they have people re-sign. They have a good re-sign rate. They have a great product. Yeah. And I think that's really, when I think about the key, and I even heard Becker talking about this, he will not be associated with anything that is not a fucking no-brainer. Yeah. Like, I'm good at sales, and I don't have to sell for dialer. I just go like, hey, this is what it is. I go like, this is what it is, man. Do you want it? And if they go, oh, it's too expensive, I go, it's probably not. Like I had a guy the other day, like yesterday, because we have a 3-seat minimum, and he goes, "Oh, I just need 2 seats," and I go, "Yeah, sorry, mate, it's fucking 3 minimum." And he goes, "Really, for $250, you're gonna not get a new client?" I go, "Oh yeah, absolutely."
Yeah.
He goes, "Listen," I go, "Oh man, I don't care if you sign up, dude. Like, sign up now, sign up later. You're gonna have to use this eventually. Like, I just don't care."
It's like real urgency. You're almost like, hurry the fuck up and make a decision because I'm getting off this call, irrespective of the outcome. Like,
yeah. And I'm like, "Mate, you're just not a big enough client for me to like, I'm not going to change the rules for you. If you offer me 40 seats, I'll change the rules for you."
Yeah.
You know, but if you're going to offer, you're just going to be and our customer service department is like fucking, if it's our fault, we'll move heaven and earth. If it's your fault, fuck you. That's literally, and if you're a dirtbag, fuck you twice.
And like, mate, that's the other good thing though about having a good product is like, if someone pisses you off, if you just wake up and you're like, I don't like that cunt's name, you just fucking fire him. Like,
we fired that many clients. Declan is my business partner. We know each other for like 20 years. He was in the army with me, and he's Emily Sky's husband. So I had a big brand, sold it to a fitness and lifestyle group, all that kind of stuff, and like doesn't give a fuck about money. I don't give a fuck about money. We both want to make more, but like we're not going to sell our souls to do it, right?
Yeah.
And this guy was like rude to our onboarding staff. He just fucking called him. He had like 8 seats, and he goes, "Man, you're a dickhead. I fucking watched the call. You're a dickhead, bro. You're fired. Get out of here. We don't want your business." The guy was like, "Oh, this," and he's like, "Man, post what you want. I'll post the fucking call. You're a dickhead. We have a no dickhead policy.
Yep.
If you want to stay, it's double the price. You're going to pay a dickhead tax."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'll send you the proposal, and we'll have a dickhead tax times 2. If you want to sign it, you can sign it, mate. But until then, like, we don't want your business. You're an asshole." And like people are like shocked, but it's like, mate, we have a line of people trying to sign up this fucking thing.
I love that. It's like, not only are you going to pay double, but I'm going to make sure you're aware that the reason is because you're a fucking wanker.
You're a dickhead.
I love that. It's so good.
Yeah, it's been really good actually. It's been really fun. Like, because the previous business was just, it got to a point where it was like just unpleasant,
Yeah.
And so this is just so much more fun. And I was talking about yesterday, like, my previous business, like 7th level, it put me in a position where I was like ultimately just an unhappy person. I was running this big business, making tons of money, and I was just like, I was a worse dad, I was a worse husband, I was a worse friend, I was traveling, I was missing things, and I was like, what is the fucking point of this?
Yeah.
I'd rather make less money and fucking have my wife like enjoy my company.
Yeah.
And so, I took a step back and then reached a couple of boiling points where I was like, oh, I just don't think this is the move for me. And I was starting to be surrounded by people that I just don't think were good for me. There's that,
a lot of that in this world. There's a lot.
Yeah, well, it's like that. There's that Bible passage which is like, sort of, if it's a, if an idol made of gold or silver made by man, beware the idol which you worship.
Yeah.
When people they worship the wrong things, 100%. And if you start to worship the fucking the god of ClickFunnels, nothing against those people, but
no.
They become like, I remember accepting like that 50 million award, and you just get people coming up to you like you're the fucking messiah.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like,
I just sell some shit on the internet, bro. Like, relax. Yeah.
Yeah, like, but it's just, and the way in which things are sold and the way in which things are presented is just like, it's just like, oh, like this doesn't make you happy.
Yeah.
Like this isn't the thing. And it's presented as the thing. Yeah. And it's like, you just need this and then you'll be enough,
Yeah.
It's like, nah, it's like, it's not going to work like that, guys. And I've been in those rooms. I've been in the 100 million rooms, and it's like I see a lot of fucking unhappy people with wives.
The amount of people in that sort of world I know cheating on their wife and fucking doing shit that's fucked up. Like,
yeah, it's no bueno. And so I think, when you get to run a business that you enjoy and that you get to do the things that you want and run it in the way that you want to run it. I mean, Declan are on the same page. Like,
yeah, it's awesome, dude.
And we're going to sell this thing like before it gets too big. Like, I'm going to try and get it to 10, 15 million a year, right? And then it'll be a 10 to 15x top line exit.
Yes.
And we're setting it up from that, like audited financials day one, the whole box and dice, right? And it's like, once I do that, like, I don't want to run the company. I don't want to be the CEO of it. I don't want, if HR is involved, I'm out. I want to have fun and I want to do the thing. And if I can do that, then I'll be able to be like, stay the fun guy. But if I have to fucking go into CEO mode again, man, it's fucking unpleasant. I'm not a nice CEO.
Yeah, I get you.
you know. So, but yeah, but I gotta go to the next meeting. But dude, this was an awesome chat.
Yeah, likewise, bro.